We're going to let Yubi get connected to the audio. So once again, good morning, happy Monday to you, and happy November, right? November 1st, 2021 is here. We have 60 days, 60, maybe 61, depending on how you count, if you're counting today or not. Maybe we should. 61 days in order to achieve and accomplish our goals. And a big part of that for us as realtors and real estate agents are going to be getting deals signed and getting deals closed. So, how do we do that? Of course, the first thing I'm going to remind you guys, I'm going to urge you all continue feeding your database, continue reaching out to your sphere of influence. We just had Halloween last night, yesterday. We have Thanksgiving or fall festival season coming up. We have the Christmas or different types of Hanukkah holiday seasons coming up. Don't miss those opportunities to network, to communicate with your sphere. Today being the first, I will be getting out my note cards and my mailers that are right here next to my desk. I'll be getting out my gratitude mailers today in the mail to my database, to the right about 98, 99 people. And it's made a huge difference in my business so far this year. So I want to encourage you all, go harder. I did a training or a meeting this morning at 7 o'clock. So, Monday is my day to crank out everything I can. This morning at 7 o'clock, I have this meeting or this group of individuals from across the country that get together called Thrive, right? Thrive, not survive. And what we talked about was how to get propulsion, how to have that success compression so we can have massive results in just a little bit of time. The premise that we talked about really went back to the insane productivity. So how could you focus your time, energy, and effort in a narrow or short window to get you off the ground and into the outer atmosphere, much like a rocket? And what we realize is, like in our business in real estate, it's going to be how many contacts can you make in a short period of time right now over the next 15 to 20 days. How many contacts can you make? Whether it's going to be seller or buyer, I believe we need to double down, triple down in making those contacts, build that funnel, build that database up. So as we go into 2022, we'll have some momentum going forward. So I want to encourage you all with that. But what I want to do before I go into the contract that's going to be, now the contract is in effect. Today is November 1st. I do want to let you know the contracts are not yet available on Form Simplicity. So it's odd, right? How do they make it? They go into effect November 1st, but they're not on Form Simplicity yet. They should be out sometime this morning. We're talking about the new as is and the crisp. There were revisions to both. So I'm going to encourage you, get to know the changes that took place on the as is, the two new addenda that they have, any revisions that were made, and the crisp. But no one uses it. In case someone does use it, it's our responsibility to know what the changes were. So we're going to go over a few of those changes, and it's most of the changes that we're going to address are going to be in the financing section that Cheryl has alluded to. So she's taken a number of the classes that have been offered by the association. I believe if you have not, it's still not too late. They're still going to have classes available from attorneys, title people, and then legal counsel that's going to best help you navigate. But I want to bring our attention to a few areas because they are going to have a big impact on us as buyer specialists and as marketing specialists when we're working with the seller. But before we do that, any questions, comments, or concerns that any of you have in your businesses or just wins that you want to report? First, I want to say congratulations to Cheryl. She went to her first leadership conference for the Broward Council for the Miami Association of Realtors. And I know she had a fantastic time. I met with some leaders on Saturday, night, I met with some leaders, and David Dweck had nothing but good stuff to say about you. He's excited to have you, Cheryl, there. So any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead, chime in now.
Thank you so much, Neil. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I did do my first leadership conference, planning conference, which is amazing, at the beautiful Ocean Reef Club in Key Largo. It was amazing. 2022 looks very, very, very good for across the board, all the boards, including the Broad Board, which I am honored to be a part of. So look forward to some great things coming out of our association. Thank you.
Good stuff, man. We're so proud of you. And here's, before we go any further, I just want to remind us that we individually and collectively, and now when I say individually, yes, each one of us, but as a brokerage, but then collectively as a brokerage and as a people, we always want to have a seat at the table so we can have a voice in the conversation. So it's so important what Cheryl is doing. I'm going to encourage all of you to consider it. Right? I know now might not be the right time. Cheryl was like, Neil, you know, all those years of, but now was the right time, right? Because I've just been beat. Cheryl, get in leadership. She's had her friends, her colleagues, Cheryl, get in leadership. And now was the right time. So just be open to the idea of getting into leadership, because the more seats we have, the louder our voice can be and the more input we can have. So what I want to do right now is just go over and share my screen just for a little bit. And the reason I am recording this is not so much just for you all to go back and watch, but just to have an idea of what is taking place. But then also for you to be able to a little bit later go in and maybe just look and see what the changes are when the contract comes out. Now, this is just the summary. I'm using the summary. I could use the red line edition or the black line edition. I'm just using the red line changes and the summary, because I do believe that this is going to be beneficial to us. So a couple of things we're not going to spend a lot of time on, but want to bring to your attention. The first one being the red line change for property description. This is going to be a big one, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it talks about personal property unless excluded in paragraph 1, or by other terms, the following items which are owned by seller and existing in property are part of the sale. They're included in the sale. Things I want us to see: thermostats, like the Nest thermostat, the Ring doorbells, those are included. You're like, Neil, but of course, no. As we have more smart homes and smart devices in homes, sellers have started taking those items, right? Now, we do the final walkthrough, whether you're buyer or seller, you go and you look and there's no thermostat, or there's a rinky-dink thermostat and you had your heart set on that Nest thermostat, or there's no doorbell. Now, here's one that I'm going to bring to your attention that is a big one, because we're going to have to decide if we put it in as an exclusion or not. Television wall mounts and television mounting hardware. Television wall mounts, we know many people are hanging their TVs now. Typically what they have done is they've taken the TV and the wall mount. Some of them have repaired the holes. Some of them did not repair the holes. Now, not the TV, but the wall mount is conveyed in the sale. Huge difference there. So if you are working with the seller, make sure you find out, are there going to be exclusions? If something's hanging on the wall, are you taking the TV? Well, of course I'm taking the TV. It's a 72-inch. Are you taking the wall mount? Yeah, I need somewhere to hang. Okay, we need to put that as an exclusion in the MLS and make sure that we have that exclusion in the contract. So that's one that I wanted to bring to your attention. And then we're going to go down just a little bit So I do encourage you all, go to floridarealtors.org. It's still the first thing that pops up on the screen, the contract changes, and read this read this on your own. Occupancy and possession, a few changes there, but I really want us to come down here and we're going to look at Cheryl's favorite paragraph, paragraph 8, all about financing. If you are not aware of anything else in the contract, get to know about the financing. Huge implications for us as agents, period. Huge implications on the buyer and the seller, right? Depending on, it's going to determine, can they get their funds back? Is there escrow at risk? How secure is the transaction? Can the seller now be more confident? What time frames? It's also going to determine which lender you use as a buyer specialist. It's going to determine if your seller should accept an offer based on the loan approval timeline and if we think it's reasonable or not. So really important. The first one is, this is a cash transaction with no financing contingency. They made it very, very clear. So they removed all of this fluff and they were like, hey, this is a cash transaction with no financing contingency. If we get a contract or an offer with option A selected, we like it, right? Okay, but let's come down and look at section B. Some things contingent upon within blank number of days after effective date, loan approval period. Then it talks about the type of financing. Here's where it gets very, very, very important. And I'm not going to go in depth. I just want to bring to your attention what to go back and look at after this morning. So as soon as you all can get in front of your computer, go to floridarealtors.org, look at the actual red line or the black line version of this. I want you to see what the new contract is going to look like. And hopefully in a few hours, we'll have that out on Form Simplicity. So when we come down and we're looking at this part here, and buyer's mortgage broker or lender having received an appraisal or alternative valuation of the property satisfactory to lender, if either is required by lender prior to closing, which is sufficient, meet the terms required for lender to issue, provide financing for buyer and proceed to closing. So what this means is 2 tasks must be completed within the loan approval period. The first one is not new. Obtain loan approval, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. We got that. Always had it, no surprise. The second task is new. The appraisal and the review of the appraisal to make sure that the lender, the buyer's lender, is satisfied with it, must be completed in the time of the loan approval period. Typically, now here's real world. What we typically see is loan approval period of 21 days, right? We see the loan approval period of 21 days. Loan approval, got it now, we get the conditional loan approval, but it's contingent upon satisfactory appraisal. Now, not happening. That appraisal must come within. Now, not only the appraisal being done, the lender must, in case you don't know, once the appraisal is done, the lender reviews it, it goes to underwriting, they make sure that it is satisfactory, and then they say, okay. So it's not just the appraisal being done and getting the report back, the appraisal has to go to underwriting as well. And then all of that now must be done in the loan approval period. And here's why that's important. Let's first talk as a buyer's specialist, the 21-day loan approval. Be careful with that. Speak to your lender. I'm going to encourage you all, speak to Dan Longman. Speak to your lender and say, hey, can we get an appraisal done and reviewed in this window? Or do I need to go 30? Now, the challenge is, as a buyer specialist, what? We know that now with the fierce competition, the shorter the window, the fewer the contingencies, the smaller that opportunity is to get out, the more attractive it is for the seller. But we also, so here's our juggle. Here's where we have to weigh these scales. We want our buyer to get the property. We want them to go under contract. So we want that to be attractive. But we don't want to put their escrow at risk. right? And once that loan approval is gone, you all are with me, right? Once that loan approval period has, before we could say, well, we're going to wait for the appraisal and then we'll negotiate. Not anymore. Both tasks are to be achieved within the loan approval period. Vitally important. There are also some additional changes a little bit later talking about the loan approval. Um, we must now make a written request. Seller must make a written request to the buyer or to the buyer's agent for an update. Before, it could be just via phone call. We must make that request via written request email right now. The next one and then it talks about, I'm not touching on it, talks about what happens if the buyer cannot get approved in the time period. If they can't get approved in the time period, come in, look at paragraph 8 is a very important paragraph for us. Let's see the last one. Oh, yes, go ahead. Is that you, Cheryl?
Hey, what is the consensus with the mortgage brokers? What is Dan saying that? What is Dan saying that based upon his length of stay? Is it 21 days, or they still push it out to 30, 35? What are they thinking?
So great question, Yubi. Here's what Dan is saying. And these are the questions that you want to ask your lender. Who orders their appraisals? Do they have independent? Do they do everything in-house? Do they have a bank of appraisers that they can go to and through and order? If so, Dan is still saying 21 days, we're getting it done, because that's their point of differentiation. If you are unaware, right now there's a backlog in home inspections and a backlog in appraisals. That does not mean there aren't enough appraisers or inspectors. It just means that I believe many people, not all of them, many people are using these supply chain shortages issues to say, well, you know what? I can just slow down a little bit. I can use that too. That's like us saying, well, we're affected by the supply chain shortage or the freight being out there in the bay. Not really the case. But what Dan is saying, they have appraisals where they're still ordering appraisals within 5 days of receiving the file, right? So their time frame, their timeline, because they understand now more so than ever, their buyers are at risk of losing escrow if they don't get it done. And not just escrow, but also losing the deal. So he's still saying 21 days. If that changes, he's going to tell you. And most lenders, I'm just using Dan because I spoke to him specifically about it. And most lenders will say, hey, right now, we need to bump it to 30 just to be careful, just to be safe. But until, once again, if they have their own appraisal bank where they are ordering from for their appraisals from, we should be okay. And then as they can gauge the amount or the volume that they'll have, what we don't want to do is, let's not get under contract. Here's the thing. Let's not get under contract, wait 2 days, 3 days, maybe 5 days, right? Loan application done within 5 days. We're under contract. Then they get the loan application on the 5th day. Guess what? We've only got 16 days then. So as soon as we're under contract, I encourage you all to get the information over to Joanna, get the contract to her. Let's get everything out to this lender. Now more than ever, time is of the essence. We've got to be on top of our game, because if something falls through or if something happens, if we get to that 11th hour, the buyer, the seller, the other agent, they're not going to say, oh, shame on your client or your customer. They're going to look at you and I as professionals. Someone else had a question?
Yes, Neil, it's Cheryl. This is going to be a really, really fine line with this new thing, because just think about it. Typically, or in the past, what we've been used to doing is we get that inspection done, especially if we're a buyer specialist. We're working with our buyer, right? And we get that that inspection done, and we don't quite want to have the lender order the appraisal, because we don't know if we're gonna move forward from the inspection. But now with this new change, it's gonna be really, really tricky, okay, when that is gonna happen, because now the smaller window time, depending on what time frame you put in that space, 21 days, 23 days, whatever the case may be. So it's going to be a fine line that we're going to have to tread to make sure that that buyer, and that's another thing, get that inspection done ASAP, pretty much. So all of those things can be out of the way, but we don't want to cost our clients, especially if we're representing that buyer, more money if they decide they don't want to move forward with that particular property for whatever the reasons are. So it's going to be tricky. That's all I got to say.
No. Great point, Cheryl. So here's what I'm going to encourage us, regardless of what we put in the inspection deadline, right? Inspection days, 7 days, 10 days, right? Whatever it is. Act as if you have 3 days to get that inspection done. I'm going to encourage us, find 3 inspection companies. I know Joanna, she's sending it out. If you're using her Shooter Clothes, she's sending it out, getting multiple bids. Now might be a time when we cannot use our preferred inspector because they might be backed up on the number of days to get the inspection done. What we might have to do is go with someone. We might have to tell our buyer, pay the 25 or 50 bucks more to get this done tomorrow, as opposed to getting it for $50 less, but it takes 4 days, right? Because ultimately, Miss Buyer, Mr. Buyer, we have to make sure we get that appraisal ordered, because if not, we need to make all our decisions. Now, here's where also we have to be skilled in our buyer consultation. We have to work this into our buyer consultation immediately. Now, that has to be one of the first conversations that we're having. Hey, just so you know, as of November 1st, some changes took place on the contract. And in order for me to best serve you, I want to let you know what those are and how they're going to impact you as a buyer or a seller. Have those conversations right up front. And the one about the inspection, the appraisal, the potential outlay of money is a conversation that we want to have right up front, especially if, like, think about this. Some of us have been working with buyers already for an extended period of time, right? Maybe we have already had them under contract, have fallen out, and now they're like, man, I need 7 days inspection. Okay, well, listen, some things have changed. Here's what we're going to do. Yes, we can have the 7 days inspection, but now we go on the contract. We've got to make sure we get the inspection done. We've got to get the appraisal order. We got to move, because now our 21 or our 30 days is a hard 30. We used to wait. Okay, 30 days is contingent upon the appraisal because it's written in there. No, not now. So make sure that we're having those conversations. Anyone else? Anything else before we continue?
Go ahead. I'll wait till the end. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Are you sure, Yubi? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, because it I haven't read it yet. I just kind of briefed over the video, but I didn't sit down and watch it. But even that kind of changes the conversation as a buyer rep. Number one is that, okay, we all know that you don't really have to put anything down to open up an escrow. That's just a good faith deposit. So how much are you willing to put at risk just in case if something goes south? But at the same time, we're not looking at this appraisal, of the inspection as a fire starter to go ahead and say, go ahead and get the appraisal going. Should that already be processed? And keep in mind, not everybody's going to go through Dan Loman. They're going to come with their own folks.
Now, see, that is up to you and your buyer. So me, and it is my belief. I set the expectation up front. There, Miss Buyer, Mr. Buyer, there are some costs that are going to come with buying a home. The first one in the process, one is going to be your home inspection, the other is going to be the appraisal. Those are going, and so I'm communicating to them every time we go on the contract, expect to pay for a home inspection and an appraisal. So now I'm setting that expectation. Now, Lord willing, we only do that once. Or, if we have to do a home inspection, we use the same company. The second time they give us a little bit of a discount, da. But for me, I know that it's more important to make sure that the process goes smooth. And if they have, now here's what I'm going to say, what you just mentioned, especially if you are not, if you don't have a relationship, if you're not familiar with their lender, if you don't know how their lender works, I'm going to encourage you. If they bring someone, we've got to get that appraisal ordered immediately. I want that file out to their people, because we don't know how or who they're ordering their appraisals through. Sometimes they're like, hey, we placed the order within the 5 days, but it took them 4 days for someone to actually accept it. And then it took 2 days to get in contract. So you're telling me now we're 11 days in, ouch, right? So I think that we have to be careful. If you know the person, great, boom, 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 boom. If not, we have to decide, really, but really, here's the thing. I don't want us to ever be the one to decide when the appraisal is ordered. I want us to communicate to our buyers. Here's what we have. This is the game. These are the options. What do you want to do? Here's my suggestion. And our suggestion should always be to have the appraisal ordered immediately. Because if not, that means a couple of things. One, we're either unsure of the property that we're submitting an offer on based on our valuation, right? Maybe we just put an offer too high just to get the deal, or we're unsure of the property condition. And I would say that we need to know as much as we can the condition, just going through, look at a couple of things. Brad Pfeiffer has reminded us to look at a couple of things when we go through the main one. Look at the type of electrical panel that there is in the house, right? That's a huge one that we're seeing right now. Is it one of those ugly 4 horsemen that we have? And then I'll be getting the names of those 4 types of electrical panels that we really want to stay away from, that insurance and lenders want to stay away from. So that's going to be one. And then is the plumbing and the HVAC okay-ish, right? And if so, then I'm going to say yes on those, and we want to go ahead and we really want to have those appraisals ordered. Now, we can't tell them what to do. We can only make our professional suggestion.
And I want to piggyback what you said, or Neil. It's going to be very important. And again, it's setting that expectation with our buying client, right? To let them know, and especially if they're bringing a lender to us that we've never worked with. I mean, how many times has that been? I like almost cringe when I see ABC Capital Mortgage, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, who is that? Not that they're not good, but it's just that we're not familiar. So that when we see that and we know that, that's the conversation that we need to have with our buyers. Like, listen, I'm really not familiar. So my suggestion, I strongly suggest that we go ahead, do the inspection or the appraisal like immediately. That way, the chances of us getting caught up with that timing is lessened. So that's what I'm going to start doing, because, yeah, I'm not doing it.
Good stuff. And don't forget, we're having those conversations. Once you have that buyer consultation, and if you find out, are they approved? Are they pre-approved? How do they have a lender? Go ahead and don't just trust that paper. Don't just come through, pick up the phone, have a conversation with them. Have you vetted them? What have you already gone through and gotten? How solid are you? Do you order in-house appraisals? What's your underwriting process? Here's how I typically operate. What are the fees you're going to charge? How do you communicate? Do you have, like, we want to ask all of those questions, right? So that's going to make the process smoother as we are all impacted with these contract changes. Here's a small but a significant contract change that I want us to see in time, not so much based on where the property is located, but right down here, what they omitted, right? Shall extend to 5 p.m. where the property is located on the next business day. So that is a significant change, because if now, say they take out 5 p.m. So that was one of the things. So when you say end of day, what is end of day? Is that 11:59? Or, so for instance, let's say that if a deadline was on Sunday, right? Sunday, 11:59. Okay. Well, what if it's not Sunday, now it goes to Monday? It used to be where it would go to 5 p.m. on Monday, but that's not the case. So they've taken out that 5 p.m. So it shall extend to the next calendar day, which is not Saturday, Sunday, or a day on which a national legal public holiday is observed. So those are the changes that I wanted to touch base with you all on the call. Be sure that you go into floridarealtors.org and go click on that top scrolling banner where it says what's new, what's happening November 1st, and then be on the lookout for the new contracts coming out a little bit later today. Any questions, comments, or concerns besides those that have already been posed this morning? Hearing none. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, go ahead, Cheryl.
I'm sorry, Neil.
No worries.
Getting back to what we learned from the planning, and maybe some of you all who are a part, all of us are a part of Miami Association. So one of the initiatives and the missions that we have set forth for this year is better engagement with our members. So I wanted to, and not you, Neil, because, but from UB and from DeAndre, how better can we serve our members? Because what we are learning is that most people think the dues that we pay, is just for access to the MLS, and it's way, way, way more than that. So my question is to UB and to DeAndre, how better can we serve? How better can we serve?
Well, not that you guys have to answer right. Oh, DeAndre, you got it. Go ahead, brother.
No, I was just gonna say that I write a list down and then I'll be able to get that to you.
Thank you, sir. A list. I love it. Thank you.
And I know you'll be able to do the same. So something that I'm going to encourage and that I always remind people of and at the association is just more on-demand stuff, right? I think that, we typically, we were an antiquated organization of 50,000 people, 50,000 members. And we've always wanted people in class and on a physical location. And man, this pandemic has just shown us, think about this. How long have we been doing virtual meetings? We were doing virtual meetings, that's all we've done, right? When we stopped doing things at the library, we were just meeting virtually. But we were a year and a half before everyone else, right? And so what I believe the association needs to continue to focus on is more on demand, right? How can I go on and do just like Netflix? If I want to come on my computer and look at trainings, I believe that one of the easiest and best ways, the better things that we could do is better catalog our classes on the education calendar, right? Right now, you go on there, it's a bunch of stuff and they just run it on a vertical, and it's a clickable, but it looks almost like a PDF format, right? So if you guys go to the education calendar right now, you'll see on today, there might be 50 classes and you just go down. Right now, you all know how I feel about video. A video catalog of the classes and the training. The more we do of that, I mean, the better. Now, they are pulling some videos. They are doing some things that the trainers are putting up. But the more of that on demand, the better, because I think that as the holidays and as people, instead of pushing just the class itself, I believe that reminding agents of the free classes and the free resources that are available for them to watch in their own time. Something that I think that would be hugely beneficial would be to get back to doing those snippet training videos instead of me going to the full YouTube channel where the trainers have an hour-long class. What if you gave me 6 minutes of a video? What if you gave me one tip, 6 minutes that was specifically catered to my virtual format or to my mobile format, where I can come on and look at my IGTV, right? That's something I don't think that the association takes enough advantage of. What if I did an IGTV where it's 2 to 10 minutes? What if we hit that sweet spot of 6 minutes so that we can get viewership for about 4 minutes? Because if we did that now, they said, oh, let me see right here. If the association got more in people's stories, right? I think that's a huge miss. I think we have to go where people are, Cheryl. And if you're the one that's telling people, because here, think about this, commercial is already doing it by going on to the Clubhouse, right? And so we're hearing all that with commercial. Is any other board talking, we haven't talked about it. We see what Tamika and them are doing on the commercial space. But what if we got right into, now it's a responsibility. Someone's going to have to be accountable for it. But what if someone, even because Tamika, she's a volunteer, but what if a staff person did that? What if a staff person came on and today, every social media platform for realtors, everything that the Miami Association is on, that the Broward Council is on, we should be getting in our stories on IG and Facebook, IGTV, on the post, reminding of contracts, talking about, hey, have you seen paragraph 8 of the ad? Like that's the kind of stuff. Because I'm not going to, and this is me, I'm not going to FloridaRealtors.org every morning, right? I go there because I went there this morning just to prepare for us. But we're the ones that are plugged in for those lay realtors, for those that are going to be on social media. There are, like, of our 50,000, 48,000 of them have already been on Facebook or IG this morning, right? And the other 4,000 just got to wake up. Like Charles, right? He just ain't up yet because he partied too hard last night. So I think that, Cheryl, if you were to pitch that, now here's my challenge to you, or here's your challenge. If you pitch that, I know that the Broward Council, they're going to say, great, Cheryl, you could take the charge, you could take the lead on that. So be careful, right? I don't want you to put more on your plate, because ultimately I want to make sure that we're selling and doing business. But if you could start thinking and saying, how can, who can, when can, where can we make this happen? How can we take what is very successful for commercial? How can we use this for Broward? How can we get more into the social? Because if you look at our leadership as a whole at the association level, it's a little older, right? And it is—
how dare you?
It's a little older, and it is homogenous in the look and the feel of leadership. So they aren't on the social as much as us, right? They do fun stuff like, oh, we'll do this TikTok thing, da da da. Like, I don't even think that the YPN has, like, the YPN as a board has a targeted tactic and approach and system for that. So I think that if we are where people are, and that's in their phones, on their social media more consistently, and giving them items of value that they can use and need, and not just things that are cute, I think that would be a huge difference. Now, someone that is doing a fantastic job of it is going to be Chris Boom-Pierre, but he's just giving market stats. I love him. I take the market stats. I'm using them like crazy. I dropped my market stats this morning for the past week. So I see a value in that. But most people, they need to be spoon-fed these little things. And I think over the next month of November, if we found a way to just give little tips and little tidbits and techniques to buyers, sellers, agents, just about what the contract changes mean, I think it'd be a huge boon for everyone.
But snippets, and not just like so much information at one time.
Just a little bit. Like, for instance,
it's almost like oversharing in a way.
Like, for instance, what if you said, do you like your Ring doorbell? Question mark. Are you leaving your nest? Like, little things like that. And say, and then in the, like, man, we miss a huge part to have sexy thumbnails, right? I need you to capture me, catch me by what the thumbnail looks like. We know that's what Karen Carr does with the YouTube videos. Like, let your thumbnail catch me. Like, are you stealing that doorbell? What do you mean, am I stealing the doorbell? Well, if it's not in the exclusion and you take it, you just stole the buyer's doorbell, right? These are things that, like, but something catchy, something edgy, just for them to say, man, I didn't think about that. And then that leads into, well, hey, did you know this about the contract? Did you know I could take my TV but not my wall mount? Do you know that I, as a seller, can now be responsible for buying a new wall mount and having it installed, or right? And so
you're saying have that from a staff member in Broward to offer or formulate that type of video and put it and have a better presence socially. But just to let you know, they spoke a lot about social. There is a lot of young blood, if you will. We got Sophia Allen, Krishana, and a few more people in there that, spoke quite a bit about social. So I believe that you will see some changes in regards to that.
Hold on, but that's from the volunteer side of it, right? Because and so here's where we have to be careful. The leadership, always, like, business owner, I want to get as much out of you and not have to pay you as little as possible, right? And so my thing is, how much of this is going to be volunteer done? Like, the idea should come from volunteers, but the implementation and the execution needs to come from someone who's paid to do it, who has a job, and that's their responsibility. Otherwise, what we see and what we have seen is that volunteers start it and they get it going, but dang, man, I'm doing all this for the association and my business is floundering. Well, I need to come over here. And what happens? Then the program or the system falls apart. And now,
Yes.
just as, remember, I talked about how we have that compressed attention, and now we started to get out of the atmosphere, and then it crashes because Sophia was in charge of it. But then Sophia was like, "Hey, love y'all. I got to take care of my business." But if we have someone dedicated, that's why the market stats, and that's why YPN are successful in what they're doing, because you have Kevin Percelli, who was doing it for the YPN, and now we have Chris Pierre doing those. Think about this. You all know those emails that we get daily with the news, what's happening, like the South Florida Real Estate News. Chris is going in there. He's doing that every night and every morning, right? Getting that information. That's one of his job descriptions, and he has to get it done. It's different if you put Neil in charge. Oh, you want me to do it? Okay, cool. After I make my note, do my notes, calls, pop buys, after I respond to my seller leads, then I'll get some things done there. So as long as the focus is the ideas are coming from the leadership and is being pushed and directed towards having someone on staff do it and execute it, I believe it will work. Now, a lot of what we have already, or that we can do, is I believe that the information and the material is already there. It's just about the editing, right? Because I know Connie Nieto is doing a lot of classes, right? So if we took her classes and they just snipped it, repurposed these things to where now, instead of teaching to a class, what if you took a section and you tailored your conversation? And this is one of the challenges of the speakers and the trainers. Can you tailor your class so that everyone in the class thinks you're talking to them, but can you make it where it's a 6-minute soundbite, right? Can you make it where you have different parts where you transition through and everything? Okay, I know in my head that when I'm talking about contracts or this part right here, I'm going to make 8A in the contract be its own segment that I have an intention to make a little bit later into a 6-minute deal. So I'm going to be talking directly to the camera. I'm not going to say, okay, does anyone have any questions? I'm not going to do that, right? I would save that for the end so we can edit that out. But that's stuff that I can talk to, or no, that you could tell the leadership, hey, these are some ideas. Can we get some of the long form content that we have? Can we break it down? Can we get that on social media? Because we're going to have to build our presence. Because whether the association likes it or not, people are not going to want to come back into the physical locations for training. Now,
I appreciate and look forward to your email, DeAndre, as well as Neil, because you gave me a lot right there. But just to let you know, we had Letty in one, and Letty was saying that, and it kind of goes with what you just said. The engagement of the virtual classes, the Zoom classes, were overwhelmingly larger than any time you would have somebody has to go to a physical location. So definitely, though we're going to be opening up, because they talked about it, we got a lot of different offices out now, the headquarters, doing a whole brand new headquarters, which is going to be phenomenal. I mean, my God, state of the art location. But, some people still want to have that versatility that they can just get on Zoom, and be able to do more than one thing. You can sit in your office or at home or wherever it is and to do those things. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm telling the associations, to get me to show up, y'all got to pay me double, brother. Because if I'm sitting here and I'm doing a teaching training here and not spending 45 minutes each way in a car, come on. Right, if I can sit here and if I have an engaging instructor who can get me the same content, same information, I think that we need to be more intentional about having trainings coming right here. Because if I can get 6 minutes, 5 minutes of content here, that's applicable to business. And if we focus on what is actually going to be real world day-to-day stuff, not the crap that's in the manuals and the books and the theories, but something from someone who's in the field, I think that will have a big impact. And then our members will see a greater value for what they're paying. They're like, man, I pay these dues, but this one tip that I got right here had me close that deal. Or this one tip I got right here did not cause me to lose a client or customer because they kept their escrow intact. So I think little things like that. And then, I mean, I believe in just calling a spade a spade. I think that we are sort of soft in our marketing and our messaging. I think that we know the elephant in the room is that people think that the MLS is the only thing that you get when you pay your dues, and that's why they complain about it. I would just target a marketing campaign directed straight to the elephant, right? Here's what you get. Do you think your dues are too much? Do you think the MLS is all you get, bro? I'm hitting them straight with it in the face, right? Here's what you get. And then, but we've got to have something, we've got to have that value add. So this is a thing where, think about it on the listing side. People think that when you list a home, all you do is you put it in the MLS, right? But we know, that's why in our marketing consultation, we tell them what goes into the marketing of their home. We're going to make sure that the property is staged correctly, not meaning we're bringing furniture in, but that we just reuse what you already have. We're going to have professional photos taken. We're going to have copy written for your home. We're going to make sure that we put a marketing package in place. Oh, you mean you're not just going to put it on the MLS? That's what listing, I thought you would put it in the multiple listing service. So we have to lay it out. And then once we tell people what we're doing, once they see it, and then they see the culmination of the efforts, then they're more willing to say, oh, now you're worth every penny of that compensation. I thought you were just doing this, this, and this, and that's not the case. So I think that we just have to better communicate what we're doing, what people are getting, and not just assume that everyone knows.
FYI, everyone, I do some staging if anybody needs that service. So
look at Cheryl plugging, boy. She said, hey, in case y'all need those staging services, y'all call Cheryl King Weathers. I got you. All right, DeAndre, what you got, brother?
So Neil, just wanted to ask you, based on what the association is doing when it comes to flagging the listings on the MLS, I've had a lot of experiences with, I have a client, they're approved, they have the documentation, calling these agents, and they're basically deterring you from even showing the property, saying that they have a contract already, but it's not updated. So when you go flag it in MLS, you know, nothing happens, and next thing you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, the property's still showing available. So is there anything that's like the checks and balances that's really happening on the association side that you know of when it comes to enforcing that?
Yes, so that is an agent reported. So you're going to be hitting that caution sign, then you're typing in. What they are doing is they are asking. So I know the MLS department, they're reaching out, they're sending emails. Hey, we've gotten reports that this property is still active, but you've communicated that it is under contract. This is where it's all about integrity on the side of the listing specialist, because the listing specialist will be like, yes, we went under contract, but the deal fell through before we could change the status, so it's still available, right? Or if you call the second time and they say, or send an email where we're under contract, it has to be updated. So that's the game that's being played. Ultimately, we know what the reality is. We know that the listing agent is having the property active and they are waiting to find their own buyer, right? So what we are seeing is that's why they came with the active with contract status, the AC status. So the only thing that you can do, unfortunately, DeAndre, is continue to reach out, say, what's the status on this? Is it under contract? Why hasn't it been updated to the listing agent? Then once you get that report from them, you go back in and report that again to the association. And then, so those that are habitual offenders that are doing this over and over again, they are getting fined. The first fine isn't that big. The second fine is significant, just to deter them from that. But it is something that you're required to do.
Appreciate it.
Yubi.
Absolutely, DeAndre. And it's Miami Realtors /MLS to report those things.
Yubi, what you got, sir?
Yeah, it was the same thing this weekend. I put a showing request for drove all the way up to West Palm and put the request in on Wednesday for a showing for Saturday. I'm way out there. And right now I have not heard a response. We even drove by the house. We even I even sent an email and a text. But in the broker remarks, I guess it's the way to cover it. It says showings will only be during open house on a weekend. We'll put a schedule in MLS once confirmed, partial impact, stuff like that. But I'm like, okay, so it's the weekend just passed and you haven't done it. And it's been listed, for a minute. So where does that come into play? But I'm thinking that the broker remarks protected.
So here's the thing: as a listing agent, we just have to make the home available. Let me back up. We have to have Cheryl and I had this conversation. We have to have the appearance that the property is available for viewing. So your listing agent, Yubi, has made the appearance that the property is available for viewing. Okay. They haven't given you the instructions. So are they compliant? Yes.
Yes.
And so this is one of those hard things.
Well, they are compliant, and I've had the conversation with about that. So, well, listen, it's they have it listed. We requesting access. And they always going to say, which we can't prove it, but they're going to either say, well, the owners this, that, and the other, and they have to respect their principle, which I already know that's going down that road. Yeah. But at the same time, we got to stop playing into that. But it is what it is.
So yeah, I'm aware on that note. So what we had a property. Charles had a $600,000 property up in Palm Beach, and the tenant, legit, she gave us 1 day to show the property. We showed the property. No one else could get into the property after that day, right? So we had people calling and scheduling. And I told Charles, I said, hey, man, you got to talk to the owner. He's either got to buy the tenant out, bribe her to get her to show, so we can show the property, or we've got to cancel the listing, because I know I ain't going to lie to y'all. It's one thing when they're calling y'all. All right, cool. Y'all deal with that. When they start calling me, no, Neil, man, we can't get into your property. Okay, hold on. Charles, Yubi, I need you to talk to your seller. We got to figure something out. And we end up taking the property off the market just because we can't show it. And I understand, and we all understand, that it makes the buyer's agent look like they're lying. That's what it comes down to. Because if I'm the buyer, I'm not looking at I love your websites. I love that IDX. And yeah, okay, I'm not looking at your website. I'm going on Realtor. I'm going on Zillow. I'm going on Redfin. They're showing that the property is active. You're telling me that it's not available. You're lying to me. I'm going to go with one of those agents that's underneath that listing, and I'm going to call them to get me in, because you're a liar and you can't get the job done. So that's what the perception is. And that's what they try to fight. And that's where we have to come in and have these conversations and say, hey, listen, here, and I'm going to encourage you all not to cover your own assets. Send the request in writing, make the phone calls. Don't put the other person's email address, but hey, every time you make a request, I'm sending an email, I'm screenshotting, and I'm putting second request, third request, fourth request. I'm cropping out their email address, but I'm letting them know. I'm letting my buyer know, hey, I've made multiple requests. I have not gotten a response. If you can use delivery receipt and red receipts on your email, do that. But let your customer client know, I'm trying everything I can to get in. I'm not being successful. And then I'm going to encourage them. Hey, here's what I need you to do. I need you to see if they'll respond to you. If that's the house they want, see if they respond to you. If they do, then let me know, and I'll know what we're dealing with. Right now, that's only if you trust your client. If you don't,
if you got the ABBR, if you got the
EBBA, if you don't trust
don't
them,
do it.
Don't you do it, because they're gonna be like, man, I ain't making that second phone call to you. I'm just gonna sit here and talk to Jose and go ahead and get in this thing and buy it. So make sure. But yeah, it's something that we're seeing. So I think it is important for us to be aware of, to know what we're dealing with. But then know that they are in compliance with the MLS. They do have to honor that. So that's that gray area. But if it comes down to us, and if we have that, I'm going to encourage us, just like I did with Charles, either get in, schedule one open house, let everybody know. That's what we've been doing lately. hey, man, this is the window. Cheryl had one where we're like, man, you guys have this open house. It didn't go through at the open house. We're going to have one day for 2 hours. I need you to get here. If you can't get in this time, look at the video. Otherwise, submit an offer or just walk away from it. And as long as there's that appearance of and the actual execution of availability to show, then they're compliant.
I have a question, UB. You mean to tell me did you go up to West Palm without the confirmation?
No, I was up there showing other properties.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't leave my house unless I got confirmation. I don't leave my house unless I got a pre-approval. I'm old school. It's not things I ain't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I go up there, and then since this is the daughter now, I've already been through the family, so we've got a relationship, family type thing there. But we were driving up, looking at the other ones, and I said, I don't have the other one yet, but I'm more than willing to go by there and let's take a look at it and see the area and see the neighborhood. That's just going above and beyond that. So we drove by the house, drove by the neighborhood. They liked it. The pictures were cool, and we got lunch out of it. So
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Anyone else? Anything else? What do you guys have this morning? Questions, comments, or concerns? Good stuff this morning. All right. So number one, let's not forget to go in, look at those contract changes that go into effect today. Keep your eye out for the contract being updated. Also want to remind you all that the market stats for the month of September did come out. Make sure you know what's happening in Broward, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, single family, condo, townhouses. Want to make sure you all are aware of that. Here's something that I want to bring to your attention. I am not sure if you are aware, but the median sales price for single family homes in Broward has eclipsed the median sales price of single family homes in Miami-Dade. And that is unusual, so that's a big deal. Now, the average sales price is still less, but that's just because Miami-Dade has higher sales price, but the median sales price is higher in Broward than Miami-Dade. So now that requires us to have conversation with our buyers who might want it to be in Broward. Is North Miami Beach an option? Is Miami Gardens? It's not Carroll City anymore. It's not even the old Miami Gardens anymore. Is Miami Gardens an option for you as opposed to Pembroke Pines or Miramar? Right? These are things as we're seeing, because typically we just think of Miami-Dade as being more expensive than Broward, but keep that into consideration. And then always looking at months of inventory and then median time to contract or days on market. All right. Anyone else? Cheryl, go ahead.
Neil, one thing that I was on one Zoom call and it was talking about the contract, and they basically were saying that as listing agents, and we see it all the time, that we'll see in the broker's notes, broker's remarks, seller wants a buyer to use X, Y, and Z, their preferred lender. I believe that's going to be a no-no in the future. You cannot, they're going to start cracking down on that, as a acceptance factor. If you don't use, they won't even look at your contract. If that's going to be a no-no. So if you see that, that's another thing to start reporting, if you see those types of things like that as well. Just thought of that.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Good meeting today. This video will be posted on YouTube. I'm going to share it through to our Facebook group. Remember, I love you. God loves you. There's nothing you can do about it. Don't be average. Be world renowned. Have a great Monday. Have a great 1st of November. Love you guys. Bye-bye.